Welcome, confidential listeners, to another entry from our private archives. Tonight, we find ourselves in the gray, smoke-stained streets of London, a city that keeps its promises in the dark and breaks its hearts in the light. This is Nathan's story, a man who spent 10 years trying to outrun the memory of a girl with almond eyes and a perfect smile. It is a diary of a love that was murdered by a father's pride, resurrected by a twist of fate, and finally buried by the silent tears of a child, titled, "A Love That Came Back to Kill Me." So, bolt the door, turn down the lamps, and listen closely, because the audience for this truth is only you. London at 19 is a different world when you've got a set of keys in your pocket. I just won a lottery for a brand new Triumph motorbike. It was my first real win, my first taste of freedom. I rode over to Greenwich one Saturday just to show off to my cousin, Carly. I didn't care much for Carly's talk, but then I saw her friend, Rachel. She was barely 16, but she had this way of tossing her dark hair back that made the city's smog feel like morning mist. She was a vision in denim and lace, her skin glowing under the dim English sun. I was 19, and she was a world I wasn't allowed to enter yet. We spent the whole afternoon talking, the air between us thick with that electric, terrifying energy of a first crush. I asked her to go for a ride on the Triumph the next day, a foolish move considering I didn't even have a spare helmet. But she smiled, and in that moment I would have ridden that bike off the white cliffs of Dover just to hear her laugh again. I borrowed a helmet from a mate and met her on the corner of her street. She climbed onto the back, her arms locking around my waist like a life jacket. We rode to the park, sitting under an old oak tree as the London drizzle began to fall. We kissed for the first time, a taste of salt and strawberry lip gloss, and I felt like I was finally alive. But Carly had warned me. Her father, Old Man Miller, was a man made of iron and vinegar. He didn't just protect her daughter, he owned her. After 4 months of secret meetings and stolen kisses behind the brick walls of the East End, the hammer fell. He found out. He didn't come for me with a shout, he came with a shadow. I was standing by the fence when he called me over, his voice low and vibrating with a violence he didn't need to use. "Stay away from her, boy. She's a child, and you're a ghost. If I see your bike on this street again, you won't be riding it home." I was terrified. I was only 19, and I didn't know then that by backing away, I was letting him rewrite our entire lives. I watched her window for weeks, but the curtains stayed closed. She was a prisoner, and I was a coward in a leather jacket. Time in London is a relentless river. 5 years flowed by like gray water under the Thames. I'd sold the Triumph, bought a used hatchback, and traded my dreams of freedom for the reality of a paycheck. I met Rose, a good woman, a kind woman. We worked near each other in Canary Wharf, and before I knew it, we were a we. I liked Rose. I really did. But when I looked at her, I wasn't seeing the strawberry lip gloss or the reckless toss of dark hair. I was seeing stability. When Rose got pregnant, it wasn't a tragedy. It was a deadline. We moved into my old room at my parents' house, and soon a beautiful little girl was calling me daddy. I was happy, or at least I was the version of happy society expects from a man in his mid-20s. I hadn't spoken to the Greenwich side of the family in years. The old man Miller drama felt like a black and white movie from someone else's life. I thought I was cured. I thought I had buried Rachel under the nappies, the bills, and the 9-to-5 grind. But some fires don't go out. They just wait for a draft of fresh air to turn the world back into an oven. It happened on a Sunday, a cousin's birthday party in a rented community hall near the docks. Rose was on my arm. Our daughter was running around with a balloon, and for a moment, I felt untouchable. Then, the door opened. The air didn't just leave my lungs, it left the room. There she was, Rachel. She was more beautiful than the girl under the oak tree, sharper, more defined, a woman grown. Our eyes met across the room of screaming kids and cheap bunting, and the last 10 years vanished in a heartbeat. The impact was so loud, I was surprised no one else heard it. She was with a man, Mark, a man who looked like he'd been carved out of wet cardboard, bland, beige, and entirely wrong for her. I felt a surge of ancient, bitter rage. Is this who your father traded me for? This man who doesn't even know how to look at you? We managed a polite hello, a formal how are you, but our eyes were shouting things that would have burned the building down. I saw her look at my wife, and I looked at her husband, and I realized that we weren't just two old flames. We were two survivors of a shipwreck, staring at each other from the shores of our separate, boring lives. The week after the party was a blur of static. I couldn't focus on the spreadsheets at the office. I couldn't even focus on the road while driving. Then, on a Thursday afternoon, my phone buzzed. A message from Carly. "Nathan, Rachel's been asking for your number. She's in a bad way after seeing you. Should I give it to her?" My heart didn't just beat, it thrashed. I should have said no. I should have thought of Rose and the kid. But the ghost was calling, and I wasn't strong enough to hang up. I told Carly it was fine. Within an hour, a text appeared from an unknown number. "I haven't slept since Sunday, Nathan. Seeing you, it brought back everything my father tried to kill." We started talking. At first, it was about our lives, the kids, the years lost. But soon, the messages became 20-minute confessions. I found out she'd married Mark because she was pregnant and alone, just like me and Rose. We were living parallel tragedies. The more we talked, the more I felt that old Triumph engine revving in my chest. I wasn't Nathan the father anymore. I was Nathan the 19-year-old, and this time, no old man was gonna stop me. We agreed to meet near the old shipyard, a place where the London fog is thick enough to hide 1,000 sins. I pulled up in my hatchback, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. She was standing there, her coat collar turned up against the damp cold. She got in, and the scent of her, the same strawberry scent from 10 years ago, filled the car. We didn't even talk at first. We just stared. "I used to run to the window every time I heard a motorbike, Nathan. For years, I thought you were coming back for me. I never wanted to leave, Rachel. Your father, he broke us before we even had a chance." The kiss was inevitable. It wasn't the sweet, tentative kiss of teenagers under an oak tree. It was a collision of 10 years of hunger, anger, and regret. It was desperate. It was wrong. And it was the only thing that felt real in a city full of lies. We stayed in that car until the windows fogged up, hiding us from the world. When I dropped her off, I felt a high I hadn't felt in a decade. But as I drove back to my wife and daughter, the high started to curdle unto a sick, heavy dread. We were playing with fire in a house made of dry wood, and I just knew that eventually someone was going to smell the smoke. For the next month, I lived in a state of clinical schizophrenia. During the day, I was the doting father and the quiet husband to Rose, but every chance I got, I was in the shadows with Rachel. We weren't just kissing in cars anymore. We were talking about after the divorces, after the houses were sold, after we finally took back the life old man Miller stole from us. It was a madness. I couldn't touch Rose without feeling like a traitor, but I couldn't stay away from Rachel without feeling like I was suffocating. The hunger was too big for a hatchback or a stolen hour in a car park. We had ignited a volcano that had been dormant for a decade, and we were naive enough to think we could control the lava. Rachel was terrified, but she was also desperate. I can't do this anymore, Nathan. I can't look at Mark. Every time he touches my shoulder, I want to scream. We have to go. We have to take the kids and just vanish. We made a pact. 1 more week to get the money together, and then we'd leave the East End behind forever. I didn't see the tripwire until I was already falling. Thursday night, the London fog was so thick you could barely see the street lights. I was parked at our usual spot near the quays, my engine idling, waiting for Rachel to slip into the passenger seat. When the car door opened, I leaned over for a kiss, but it wasn't Rachel who sat down. Mark slid into the seat, his face as pale and hard as a tombstone. He didn't look bland anymore. He looked like a man who'd been hollowed out by a truth he couldn't handle. Behind him, his own car pulled up, the headlights cutting through the fog like twin daggers. "Get out of the car, Nathan, now." I looked past him. In the back of Mark's car, I saw the 2 small silhouettes of their children, their faces pressed against the glass, watching the nightmare unfold. Rachel was being pulled into the other seat by her arm, her face a mask of pure, unadulterated terror. I wanted to fight. I wanted to be the hero from 10 years ago. But when I saw those kids, those innocent souls caught in the crossfire of our midlife crisis, my strength vanished. Mark didn't swing at me. He just looked at me with a pity that hurt worse than a punch. "You think you're saving her?" he whispered. "You're just finishing what her father started." He forced Rachel into his car, and as they drove away into the London mist, I realized that the triumph I'd been trying to ride for a decade had finally crashed. And this time, there were no survivors. The silence that followed that night at the quays was louder than any explosion. I sat in my car for hours, the fog turning into a steady, freezing drizzle that blurred the world. I tried to call her, I tried to text. Nothing. The digital bridge we had built was burned to the ground. 3 days later, I got a message from Carly. My world, already in ruins, turned to ash. "It's over, Nathan." Mark offered her a choice, the kids or you. She chose the kids. She's deleted your number, blocked you on everything. She's moving back to the hills to try and save what's left of her family. Don't call again. I understood. How could I not? I saw her face when she looked at those children in the back of Mark's car. She didn't choose him. She chose them. She sacrificed her heart to save their peace. And I was left standing in the rain, a ghost of a 19-year-old boy, realizing that the man I hated most, old man Miller, had won after all. He hadn't just separated us 10 years ago. He had set us on paths that made our love impossible today. He poisoned the well before we could ever drink from it. I'm still with Rose. We share a bed, we share a mortgage, but we don't share a life. Every time I hear the roar of a Triumph motorbike on the street, my heart skips a beat, and for a second, I'm back in 2014, thinking I can change the ending. I see the shadow of the man I could have been, and I see the shadow of the woman Rachel was supposed to be. We aren't lovers anymore. We're just two people who got a second chance and realized the cost was too high. The universe didn't bring us back together to give us a happy ending. It brought us back to show us exactly what we had lost. I still feel that rage. Rage at her father, rage at Mark, but mostly rage at the clock. They say love conquers all, but they're lying. Love can't conquer time, and it certainly can't conquer the look in a child's eyes when their world is about to break. I loved her enough to let her go twice, but I'll never be whole again. And so, the archive closes on Nathan and Rachel, a story of a love that was given a second life, only to find that it was born into a graveyard. Some shadows never leave us, and some doors, once closed by a father's hand, can never truly be reopened. If this journey through the gray streets of London has moved you, please leave a like on this video and subscribe to our channel. Your support keeps these confidential stories alive. Click the bell icon so you're always there when the next secret is unboxed from the secrets inbox. But before you go, confidential listeners, I ask you, was Nathan right to pursue a ghost, or was the pain he caused his own family too high a price for a memory? Share your truth in the comments below. Because sometimes the cruelest thing the stars can do is give you exactly what you wanted 10 years too late. Until next time, stay safe and keep your secrets close. Good night.